What's going on, Badger Nation? Welcome to the world's first and longest running podcast focused on giving you the strategies and techniques you need to make your Amazon advertising easier and more profitable. My name is Michael Erickson Facchin, and right now you're joined by thousands of fellow Amazon marketers, business owners, brand managers, all hoping to level up their skills. Today, I am joined again by Michael Tejeda, PPC campaign manager extraordinaire here at AdBadger. Michael, how are you doing?
Doing great, Mike. Glad to be here. Hello, Badger Nation. So yeah, let's jump in. I know we got a lot to talk about. So Mike, what do we have on our list?
We sure do have a lot to talk about. One thing that we hadn't done in a while was I wanted to read a review from our Apple podcast reviews. I actually do not use an iPhone. I'm an Android, team Android. I would wager a lot of PPC managers don't use iPhones. We want Android. We know that it's optimal because you can fine tune all the optimization settings that Apple doesn't give you access to. Are you using an iPhone, Michael, or is my whole hypothesis wrong?
Yeah, you blew it on me.
Okay. I'm team Android. I like all the customization things that you can do, but alas, I could be completely wrong.
Both sides.
Anyway, either way, we had an Apple podcast review from MoK111. They said 10 stars, awesome podcast. I can't thank Michael, AdBadger, and this podcast enough. The wealth of knowledge that they deliver is amazing and worth its weight in gold. Worth its weight in gold technically would be very little because this is an audio podcast. So technically, the actual podcast doesn't have any weight to it. But anyway, if you're an Amazon seller and want to learn about PPC, you need this podcast in your life. You need this podcast in your life. Michael, did you ever think you'd be on a show that people need in their life?
Yeah, loving that last line. Need the podcast. Nice.
Just start handing out this podcast on random street corners, telling people that they need it in their life, and then they start listening to it. They're like, what on earth am I listening to?
There you go.
Today we have a sort of a follow-up from last week's episode. We have a wide variety of people that listen to the show. We've got PPC managers, we've got business owners, solopreneurs, we've got large team managers, we've got all different kinds of people listening to the show. And one thing we did last week was we talked to sort of people that are hiring PPC managers and giving them some tips on how to get the most out of their PPC managers so that they can get the best results and have the best business relationship possible. Today, we're going to be flipping the table. What are we doing today, Michael?
Today we're looking at ourselves, what we can do to be best, the best PPC manager possible.
Yeah, exactly. So we reflected and sort of came up with a list of 10 things that we believe great Amazon PPC campaign managers should possess.
Yes.
This is obviously not comprehensive, but we're going to go rapid fire through this list of 10. And without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Alrighty. This one actually was the first one that I wrote down. I was asked at I was speaking somewhere back when they still had in-person events. Somebody asked me like, hey, I have a PPC manager and like, how do I know that they're a good PPC manager? And the first thing that just jumped out at me was they're able to keep their word. Like just showing up and like doing what they say they're going to do. They say they're going to email you, they email you. They say they're going to like do the thing in the campaign, they do the thing in the campaign. Just doing that, like being trustworthy, like keeping their word, separates high performers from low performers in any industry. So literally just keeping your word, like, we all manage people. Michael, you manage people. It's like, if they can just be where they say they're going to be, when they say they're going to be there, and if they can go and do what they're going to do, when they're going to actually do it, that's so fundamental. It doesn't even matter what they're doing in the campaigns. I mean, of course it does, but like, if they can't just get that done, you're going to be a very poor Amazon PPC campaign manager.
Right. I mean, this is all a relationship about trust. So, we need to be there when we're saying we're going to deliver on something, we deliver.
Yeah, I'm really big into like, if you can't do the little things, there's no way you can do the big thing. Right. It's like, if you say you're going to like optimize one keyword, how are you supposed to manage the entire account? Like, and you didn't do it. Exactly. So trust, keeping your word, that is a huge one. Number 2 on the list, always be learning. What does this one bring up for you?
This one for me, this is gold, because you have to be flexible in this world, especially with Amazon. Things are constantly changing. This world has been evolving rapidly, especially over the last couple of years, and there's stuff that's on the horizon that's going to change the game too. So that's why we need to always be learning, especially on the Amazon side of things, for sure. Jumping in, learning something new every day.
Yeah, you can almost interpret this as be a constant student. I consider myself like to be a constant student, like always be humble, always, some of the most successful people I know, they walk into a room, people they've never met before, and they just start asking questions. And they're just always so eager to learn what's going on. And, if you aren't like that, if you do think that you know everything and you're not curious and you're not trying to dig in and not trying to talk to people that would allow you to learn from them, like that's, really going to hold back your growth as a PPC manager, no doubt.
For sure. And I think that, that second topic there kind of segues into our third topic, which is another way to help us to support ourselves and always learning. And it's number 3, which is talk to other PPCers and have a strong support system. To me, that's also extremely valuable. It's one thing to eat humble pie every once in a while and take a step back and really learn to see if you actually do know everything. Everybody, of course, wants to know everything in every aspect, but you just can't. So sometimes you got to know somebody who's attacked it a different way, and that's the best way to do that is talk to other people that are our specific marketplace. And I've learned a lot from Mike, and I learned a lot from other people on the team. And it's great having that sounding board and being able to go out and talk to other people that are dealing with this, that are in the trenches every day.
Mm-hmm. And I've learned a lot from you. And I think we just had we have like a private channel for our PPC team here at Ad Badger. And literally 2 hours, whatever, however many hours ago, 2 hours, 3 hours ago, somebody posted a question in there like, hey, what's up with this? You jumped in, you answered it, I confirmed it. They were like, you guys were right. This is awesome. So that's the way that it should work. I'm part of a lot of like Facebook groups of campaign managers. I have a lot of friends who are campaign company owners from other Amazon PPC companies that I've had on the show that I've learned a ton from. I'm in PPC masterminds with other people where I'm just like constantly trying to learn and have a support system. Like things are tough. Like you're going to have issues with a client, you're going to be stuck with a campaign. And if you don't have a support system, that can feel like, overwhelming. So I love being able to talk to people, connect and learn from them and have that support system. Number 4, be flexible. We sort of have to be flexible, but also have an SOP. It's a fine line here. I've seen a lot of people who follow an SOP, they find somewhere on the internet, which is awesome. And then they are almost like if something might happen as they're implementing the thing and they, might hit a roadblock, but they're being very rigid in how they're trying to implement this. So they don't like bob and weave. So like I sometimes use the analogy like, yes, systems are important, like a standard operating procedure, an SOP. It's important, but I don't think there's any heart surgeons. Like I don't think a heart surgeon is walking into the surgery room with a list of how to do heart surgery. Like they've internalized the learning and they're able to say like, oh no, I need to like, change my course of action. And having the confidence and experience to do that is, that's a really big one.
Yeah. And also with the fact that Amazon's constantly changing stuff. They're putting new rules in place all the time. So
yeah,
if you have that SOP that doesn't deal with it and it throws you a curveball, you have to adjust to it, or otherwise everything becomes ineligible and then you're not spending on campaigns and you have the client that's asking you questions. So, right.
Take us to number 5.
So number 5, isolate KPIs that are important and have goals in mind. To me, that's super critical. Every time that you're going into a conversation with a client, and especially as a PPC manager, you need to know what goals you're targeting. So that's why you need to isolate out those KPIs. There's always a specific KPI that's important to every client. They're looking at one particular metric. Usually that is the ultimate metric for them. So what is it? Because you don't want to get 3 months down the line where you're sitting there talking to the client and then They're like, oh, what about this metric? It's not ticking the way that we want it to. And then you go back and you didn't realize it was as important to them as other metrics. So definitely isolate that KPI at the first and foremost, and then make sure that we have goals in mind towards that, how to get there.
Yeah, in some ways, when you were talking there, I almost interpreted that as being able to see the forest through the trees, almost in the way of like, they might be talking to a client, and the client might say, "I need an A cost that's 30%," and almost like, well, like you have a hunch that what they really want is, what everyone wants, like more profit. So, is that what you're saying too? Like being able to understand their true goal and like tie that back to KPIs?
Right. Yeah. So it's like looking at that overarching strategy and really looking at how we can get to that end goal. If they do say they want a certain, a certain ACOS or ROAS or what have you, that all kind of revolves around certain things, revenue, and then how much we're spending, and the value that we can get out of that. So it is looking through all of that and trying to come up with the ultimate strategy on how to develop the fundamentals to get there. And maybe it's attacking it through a different campaign strategy that they don't have implemented yet.
Yeah. And I mean, this kind of ties into the next one we have, number 6, have an overall plan of attack to hit goal KPIs. Being able to work backwards in front of a client. And so they come to you, so first of all, I think goals should always be collaborative. We talked about this last week because ideally the PPC manager has their own interpretation of what's possible. And what's really powerful is that they're able to reverse engineer what's going on. This is something that we do when we work with our clients. We sort of reverse engineer of, okay, you want to get to, you're currently spending $25,000 a month at a 4x ROAS. We're trying to get to $50,000 a month at a 3.5x ROAS. Being able to connect those two dots and break them down, like reverse engineer, like first we need to do this, then we need to do that, and then we need to do this. I'm going to do this to get this expected result, and then I'm going to like move to the next one. Being able to reverse engineer a plan to hit goals and really customize it towards that, I think is a sign of a really high level PPC manager.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of goes into number 7 there. The way you were talking about that, the way you were breaking that down, number 7 on our list is be an amazing communicator. And the way that you're talking about that with breaking down those levels and talking about, we used a phase system here at Badger. So we talk about the different phases, the foundational phase and then building phase, but it's all about the communication portion of it and allowing them to visualize what's happening and the building blocks that are moving within those pieces. So whether you're building foundation or you're putting a smaller block on top of it, and always go back to that and be an amazing communicator.
Oh man, big time. Like PPC is so technical and complicated that, imagine it from the client's perspective. They're, spending a lot of their company revenue on ads, and now they are handing it over to someone. There are so many explicit and implicit needs that need to get met. Not only from the performance side, but from a trust side, which we talked about, and keeping your word in point number 1. But being an amazing communicator, being able to take all of the technical side, their goals, everything else that you know about them, and being able to synthesize it into a clear report, and being able to get on the phone and be able to walk through something that's going on in the campaign or whatever it might be, being able to ask for things from a client. All of these things can really make or break. Like you can take someone who knows the exact same amount of PPC knowledge as somebody else, but if someone's able to communicate that to the client, first of all, they're going to get the sale, but then in addition, they're going to put the client at ease. They're going to understand it. All of those things, I think are paramount. One interview question I ask PPC managers is, what's more important, client relationships and communicating with the client, or knowing PPC knowledge? And really, some answer I'm looking for is well, they're both incredibly important and here's why. But, being able to convey what's going on, what's happening, how long it's going to take to get to a goal, having those uncomfortable conversations, like being able to say like, hey, I think your goal is unrealistic. Here's why. Or, hey, that goal isn't aggressive enough. Or, hey, maybe your low target ACOS isn't the best way to get to your maximum goal of increased business performance. So maybe we should try this other thing. So it's really like being able to navigate those tricky situations. It's challenging, but it's a sign of a great PPC manager for sure.
Agreed.
Take us into number 8.
Yeah, so number 8 is really looking at having that technical greatness and the ability to stick up for yourself. So this is kind of a two-sided thing or situation for PPC managers, because you do need to have that technical greatness, of course, to do your job effectively, but then you need to be able to communicate that efficiently to the client. Because a lot of times when the client's looking at this, sometimes it's even a complete black box to them. They don't know what the heck's going on. All they know is they're dumping money into it and they want to see money come back. That's where we need to come in and be that amazing communicator, but then be able to use that technical greatness and then to communicate that and to tell them all these moving pieces. But then at the same time, on the flip side of that, as we're communicating these things and also understanding sometimes even the client's lack of knowledge, sometimes they are asking for unrealistic things and unrealistic goals. So sometimes on our side, as the PPC manager, we need to stick up for ourselves. We need to be there and say, like Mike said earlier, this goal is unrealistic and this is why. Or, they're asking you to do something that you're not necessarily comfortable with, and these are the reasons why. So that's kind of what those two sides of the equation are for me.
Yeah. I mean, this one takes a lot of time, I think, to develop. I mean, everywhere right now, today, there's conversations going on where a client is asking for a goal from their PPC manager. And no matter how the conversation goes, the PPC manager in their head has an idea of like, wow, that's really unrealistic, or sweet, this is going to be like they know, like they've seen a lot of campaigns, they know the current status of it, like they know where it can get to in 30 days. I'll tell you, like I've been optimizing PPC campaigns for about 10 years now. And the times where I look back and like, oh man, like I really fudged up that relationship, or like I didn't get it the way that I needed it to, or like, man, why didn't I do that? Or like, what happened? The times where it's gone sideways is because I wasn't like speaking my mind. I knew something was off, and like the client asked for it, so I just did it, and I knew maybe it wasn't the exact right thing to do, or like I knew the goal was a little bit too aggressive, and I wasn't clear that like how aggressive it was. Those times are where like the relationship broke down. So like it's really important for a PPC manager to be upfront, clear, to be a great communicator, and it's possible that you might get some pushback at first, especially during a sales process, because the client might be going around talking to 5 different companies, and the 4 of them that they talk to all just promised them the moon. And, if then they got to you and you were a little bit more conservative with your approximations, you were a little bit more perhaps grounded in reality. And at first it might be a little bit of a hurdle to go over, but ultimately, there's the company that just promised everything, regardless of how unrealistic it was, they're setting themselves up for a really uncomfortable time and difficult situation. Whereas being able to, navigate that and sort of understand what's actually possible and be able to communicate that, like those are grounds to be a phenomenal campaign manager that client will ultimately super appreciate, because they know that you're gonna tell them the truth and not give them the runaround. And that's a big one for me.
Yeah, me too. And that kind of goes to our next point right there. Number 9, talking about ethics. Ethics on both sides of the equation. There is sometimes as a campaign manager, we might get into an uncomfortable situation or a topic where a client is asking us for things that we know might bend Amazon's rules a little bit. And as a campaign manager, we need to be ethical, of course, in our job and do things that are in the best interest of the company. And we need to have those tough conversations sometimes with the clients. and let them know, look, this may be a short-term win for you, but it's not going to work for you long-term because of A, B, C, and D. We need to have those hard conversations and be able to, again, go back to number 8, stick up for ourselves. So ethics and sticking up for ourselves sometimes go hand in hand in a lot of the different conversations.
Yeah, for sure. Finally, number 10, this relates back to episode 48 of the PPC Den podcast. Episode 48 of the PPC Den's podcast was called The 6 Levels of Amazon PPC Mastery. And essentially what it refers to, it's a throwback from when I was a teacher, and they had all these words like, the student will be able to repeat the vocabulary word. The student will be able to understand what the vocabulary word means. The student will be able to use it in a sentence. The student will be able to, tell you antonyms and synonyms. The student will be able to, so on and so forth. That kind of understanding of a vocabulary word can get translated to Amazon PPC as well. This is one of my favorite episodes I've ever done, because it sort of walks through, you can understand Amazon PPC, but can you apply it? Can you analyze a strategy or analyze campaign results and then synthesize your own strategy, and then be able to go back and evaluate that strategy and make modifications to it? One thing that I think, I can sort of immediately tell how experienced someone is sort of how nuanced is their strategy. Like, how much have they been able to evaluate something and synthesize it specific to a particular account that they're working on, and as opposed to, hey, I launch an auto, then I take the things I convert and put into a broad, and then a phrase, then an exact. And it's like, there's some nuance there. So have they given some thought for this particular campaign, when they actually do search term graduation, and when they do it, have they determined for this account, are they going to add the negative keyword back in that auto right away? So being able to synthesize their own unique ideas, I think is always a unique sign of a strong PPC campaign manager.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's going back to almost like being a language learner. I mean, you're able to use that, you found what it is, and you're able to use it. And definitely, for sure, great PPC manager is able to take what they've learned and apply it to that particular situation, because everybody's product's unique. The marketplace that you're entering into, the competition that you have, puts you in a super unique situation. Think about COVID. I mean, if we weren't flexible in the way that we were reacting, we would have been, we would have had campaigns that failed. So again, we have to work through that. We have to be able to take it and build off of it.
Oh, yeah. So that's our list. There's loads more to say, both generally and specifically to be a great Amazon PPC campaign manager. One thing that we didn't have on here, you listen to this podcast. Hey now. I hope everyone has a fantastic week out there in Amazon PPC land. We'll see you next week. Same Badger time, same Badger place at badger.com/podcast. Have a good one, everyone. Have a good one. Have a good day. I'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.